I took the jeep, I took the bus, and did I get envious and jealous? Sometimes. Pero sinabi ko sa sarili ko, I will try to improve my lot. I probably own more than what people perceive it to be. Let's put it that way. And I don't mind that. I don't want to be in the Forbes, whatever it is. Now I walked around Central weeping.
Really?
Yeah.
I
Because
cannot
I built it,
imagine.
right? What happened? I was just walking around aimlessly, saying, what's happening here? What did I do wrong? It's a myth that everything, all the developments, all the funding that we've done in the Philippines were provided by the Salim Group. No, that's not true at all. Look at where Metro Pacific is now. Look at where PLDT. You couldn't have done it without somebody having a vested ownership interest in these companies. Hindi naman ako tanga, no?
Ano ba yung pinaka biggest, what you would consider acquisition that really excited you?
Actually, two. One is the agri side. I'm very excited about it. Would you believe? Carmen's Best.
Talaga?
It's our newest and smallest baby. And you could see that, look, we can do it. We can produce our own food, even if it's just milk. Okay. And TV5.
No kidding.
Well, if you translate into human experience, diba? It's your problem child that you care for a lot. And TV5 is a problem child.
Chris Aquino, who was once linked to you, huh? What's the
We
story
were good
there?
friends. We were good friends. Maybe about a year ago to ask how she was. But I saw pictures that she's been posting on social media. She looks on her way to recovery.
Oh, you have time to look at social media.
Not much. Mainly TikTok and Instagram.
TikTok!
Yeah. Funny.
He comes from a simple family of educators, but his talent and ambition were too big to be confined. He went on to become one of the top investment bankers and CEOs in the region, and now leads one of the biggest conglomerates in the country. How did MVP build his empire? Yan ang aalamin natin ngayong gabi sa Usapang Bilyonaryo. You were in Ateneo and financially challenged. How was it for you as a student in Ateneo?
So all throughout my academic life, from elementary to the MBA in Wharton, I was on scholarship. So my parents did not pay for my education, except for the baon and the books and all that.
Because hindi kaya ng pamilya.
It helped. Kasi sometimes they portray me as poor. Sabi sa akin ni Chris Aquino, hindi ka naman pura. Sabi. Oh, hindi naman. Poor in that sense, right? So, but we may do with what we have. 2 dishes on the table at night. Birthdays was
Modest. We'd say modest.
But I took the jeep, I took the bus. Even when I was in the Ateneo, nakikisakay ako. And did I get envious and jealous? Sometimes. But you know, I accepted our fate because my cousins were well off. Oh, meron silang mga kotse, mga drivers, gano'n. Pero ganun ang pinagpala. Pero sinabi ko sa sarili ko, I will try to improve my lot.
And you were determined to get an MBA. You knew that would be, essential to success.
That was my view because I recall a few months before graduation, I've decided I want to take my MBA. I want to do it abroad because siyempre nakikita mo some Filipinos do it. And I came home one Saturday afternoon from the Ateneo from my classes. So when I went home in Little Baguio, my dad was reading the newspaper. So I told him, Dad, can I talk to you? So I spoke. So my plans after college, Dad, is sana I could get an MBA. Tumatango lang siya, and then if I could do it abroad, say in Harvard or Wharton or wherever, I said, hindi na siya kumibo. Pag hindi kumibo yung tatay ko, I said no. And I understood it quickly na wala kaming pera for that kind of education. So hanap ng means. So happened that during that year, Procter & Gamble, P&G, had these annual scholarships that rotated in each of the countries they operated.
And it was
And that year, in 1966, it fell on the Philippines. So I said, well, okay, I'll take it because it's an opportunity. But I keep telling the young folks, that was a mistake.
Why?
Because you're fresh from college. wala kang kamuangwang sa negosyo. And when I did my sums, when the courses I took in Wharton, they were very interesting. Wharton's a great school. But I was doing merger accounting. I could do the numbers. I had no exposure to business and the realities of business. So what did those numbers mean in the real world? I think you should really put 5 years or so on your belt before you venture out in the world.
If it was a mistake, you turned out, I mean, hello, look at you. Pero, Bancom muna was your first work experience?
No, FINMA.
FINMA.
Ramon de Rosario, senior. He was a great boss, actually. I had two bosses, three. Oscar Hilado, but the senior ones were Filemon Rodriguez, who was the chairman of FINMA, and an engineer from UP. He was head of the National Power Corporation. So he's a very nice man and very sharp. And Ramon de Rosario, the ambassador.
He mentored you.
Both of them, yeah.
So you were mentored by the best. It was more valuable than the Wharton.
Actually, from a practical point of view, yes, I will say that. I worked for them 7 years, and that's how I learned to do spreadsheets manually at the time, to learn the businesses from them and see the titans of Philippine business up front.
You got a front seat.
Yeah, Washington Sisip, Fred Velayo, Jobo Fernandez, Charlie Palanca.
Wow, the greats.
Great. So Villanueva of AGNP, PL Lim of Peninsula. You know,
How old were you then?
probably my early 20s.
And you were saying you'll be one of them someday.
Well, I must have aspired to be one of them. Quite how I do it was a big question mark, right? But you know, I admire them. Very different style for each. But the brightest for me was Jobo. He asked the sharpest questions. Because he was on the FINMA board, and before every board meeting, the degree of my preparation is a function of who's attending, right? Because if Joe were there, the sharp minds on our board were present, you really have to prepare. So it's good discipline.
To prepare, no? To come
Prepare. You have to, even if I chair, for example, a number of our companies, I prepare. I require that we have a rehearsal. So, and usually weekends before the board meeting, that's the best time to train these guys, because in many ways you're preparing them to be leaders of your group, no? And to be able to do the proper presentation, to speak well and know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, when they ask you a question, you have to be able to think on your feet and be able to mentally manipulate your numbers to answer that question. And you know, the young kids don't have that. We were trained to do that in FINMA and in First Pacific.
Pero may FaceTime ka kaagad when you got into FINMA. You were already, I mean, you were very young because you were a Wharton graduate, that's why.
But the real practical reality experience was started with FINMA, then in Bancom International in Hong Kong, and then First Pacific. That's where you get exposed.
How did you meet the Salims? Was it Anthony or the father, Anthony?
Well, it all started probably in early part of 1978. So I was still with American Express, Bancom, joint venture merchant bank based in Hong Kong. The usual call on clients. And so we did the usual investment banking, how great we are and blah, blah, blah. Listen, what about your flour mill is expanding here? Can we finance that? Advisory work well done. Said, no, that's all spoken for. We have export credits for that. What about your cement plants? I understand you're in line number 6. Can we do that for you? Said, no, it's all spoken for.
So basically, lukewarm.
At saka, maliit ng American Express Bank. Eh. So sabi ko, hindi natin magiging client dito. He's too big for us. Until after a few months, I was in the office on a Saturday morning. My secretary sent me a note saying, Mr. Anthony Salim is on the line. He wants to speak with you. So I picked up the phone. So, yes, sir. So what's up, Anthony? He said, can we see you? So we go, no, I'll see you. So, no, we'll see you. So, I bring with me the Spanish contractor. I have a project for you. Yeah, right. Spanish contractor. So he's close to them because of the cement. So he came in. So rolled out this is the refinery project, and you raise, it's about $1.5 billion US at the time. So you pretend that you're experts and blah, blah, blah. And the rest is history. So Soon after that, he called me again. Can you raise money for line number 6 of his cement plants? So I did. I raised at that time. That was 1978, 45 US syndicated loan for his line number 6 cement plant.
So you must have made an impression on him when you made the
Yes.
client call.
Yes, yes.
So you burned them, you worked overtime. That must have been...
I tell you, I was with him. We were traveling all over Europe. And usually it's accompanied by ministers, during such arduous times. And the plane would be fully booked. Because they were all on first class. I was either economy or business only. Yeah, full.
But when you co-founded First Pacific, tama, diba? Why couldn't you have been an owner too?
I was. I owned part of it from the very beginning.
How much of it?
People wouldn't know because I put most of my assets abroad in a trust.
Why is it said that I may be wrong, but the impression is you are CEO, you don't necessarily, and if you have shares, they're small. The reason I'm asking is, well, you mentioned all these titans, they own their companies.
Yes, yes.
In your case, the story about you is you manage the companies with a little...
I probably own more than what people perceive it to be. Let's put it that way. And I don't mind that. I don't want to be in the Forbes, whatever it is, list.
But you landed once, huh?
Oh, okay, I took off quickly. In my early days,
Okay.
I already had a private banking relationship. So
Wow.
that's where I learned.
At what age?
32. So I had that. So that's where
You learn.
I learned to manage my affairs regularly, right? So I'm not into this.
So you co-founded First Pacific, you are part owner. In 2002, the story is you defied the Salims, right? To block this. They were ready to sell. But you decided not to go about it, not to follow what the decision.
But there's a real difference of opinion between Anthony and myself about selling the Philippine assets. At that time, he was in dire straits because it came on the heels of the Asian crisis. And in the wake of that crisis, it still spilled over to the early part of the next century. And he, at the time, took a dim view of the Philippine investments. So we had two major assets at the time, Fort Bonifacio and PLDT. And I think the reason for the sale was very flimsy. There was a $90 million debt due by First Pacific to a particular European bank. And even at the time, that's not a huge amount for us to be scrambling and selling a company like PLDT or even Fort Money, which we bought in 1995. So the reason was that sell in order to pay down that debt, which I think is a very, very flimsy reason.
There were other options.
I believe so. And PLDT is a great company, and I think the potential at the time of Bonnie was there. Slow development. But
Look at it now.
Look at it now, yeah. And
So
at the end, we says it's when Anthony and I spoke. I was surprised because I was in Tokyo at the time, and he called to say he sold it to the Kokongways. So I said, oh my God, why? So can we meet in Hong Kong? So Tokyo, flew down to Hong Kong. I said, look, Anthony, you are a bigger shareholder than I am, First Pacific. At the end, I will not defy you. Let me just resign from First Pacific. But I'm telling you, I want to stay on as a chairman and director of PLDT. And I think we should keep it. Now, if you decide to sell PLDT, I'd like to stay. Maybe the shareholders of the new ones will allow me to stay on with PLDT. I recall he made the last-ditch attempt in a board meeting in Hong Kong of First Pacific. It was usually scheduled started around 10, 9:30 or 10, and he spoke to me for about 3 hours, trying to persuade me to vote with him to sell PLDT and Fort Bonnie. I said, no, I will just resign from First Pacific out here. Then you can have your will, your way to sell. If you want to sell, I will abstain. That's all I'm telling you. And I'm willing to resign from First Pacific. So go ahead. That's the reality of it.
So you were backed by the board.
Of the local companies, yes. Of course, the board then agreed with that because
He's the majority.
not quite, but he's the biggest shareholder, diba?
And he had other he had other backers. I mean, he convinced others in the board.
Well, the Indonesians, there were 4 families who were shareholders then. They've been together for a number of years, so of course they will back Lim Silyong. That was one of my lowest points in my entire career because they did not allow me. I was the chairman of First Pacific at the time, and they barred me from attending the board because they knew about my views. So I was asked to leave the boardroom of First Pacific. So, I walked around Central weeping.
Really?
Yeah.
I cannot
Because I built it,
imagine.
right? Huh?
I cannot imagine.
What happened? I was just walking around aimlessly, saying, "What's happening here? What did I do wrong?" And I think after the fact, look at where it is today.
Do you stick it to him?
No, I have no time for acrimony, right? I'm so busy, so let bygones be bygones. Tapos na yan. Can turn back the clock. One of the things I learned from Anthony was that not to get emotional about it, because it will hinder your judgment and your ability to move forward.
Tapos na.
Tapos na yun.
Did he ever?
Alam naman niya yun na mali siya. You don't have...
You don't have to rub it in, oh.
Well, I've stuck the knife, but you don't have to squeeze it.
Is it accurate to say that it's Salim money that allowed you to amass all these companies? So it's a sore point for you.
It is. It is. Diba?
How would you characterize your friendship?
Let me give him credit, no? And particularly Lim Silyong, his father. When we started First Pacific, they differentiated management from ownership. Basically, they left us alone. They left us alone,
You
really.
basically had autonomy to do
What we needed.
Basta kumikita lang.
Basta kumita kayo. At saka huwag kayong magnakaw.
Okay. Is it accurate to say that it's Salim money that allowed you to amass all these companies? Because you're
Mali
part
yun eh.
owner of First Pacific. So
Hindi, saka we've raised money elsewhere.
you
Kasi,
borrowed, you
yeah. And we've raised equity on our own. I mean, it's a myth that everything, all the developments, all the funding that we've done in the Philippines were provided by the Salim Group. No, that's not true at all. Saka sinasabi ng mga tao dito, corporate executive, you're a hired hand. Hindi naman totoo yun eh. Sure, maybe that's a perception. But I told that person, sabi ko, look, we started in investing in this country when blood was on the streets, literally, in 1985, soon after the Aquino assassination. Nobody was investing in the Philippines. So let's get in. So we were the first in this country to come in. And nobody wanted to lend to us. Look at where Metro Pacific is now. Look at where PLDT. You couldn't have done it without somebody having a vested ownership interest in these companies. Hindi naman ako tanga, no? You work so hard and you don't reap the benefit of what you planted. Di ba? Mahirap na. That's not true. Maybe that's the perception. I'm not saying you're wrong. But I think it's time to change that perception naman. Kanya, part of my reason why I wanted to privatize MPIC, Metro Pacific, was that to show that I also own, maybe not as much as, say, First Pacific, but at least now I'm an owner. I can claim to be an owner of Metro Pacific. But
So it's a sore point for you.
it is. It is. Di ba? Siguro naman, hindi naman ako magastos, di ba? I've saved so much over the years.
I guess, hindi ka lumalabas sa opisina ka.
Ang bisyo ko lang, badminton. Hindi naman magastos yun, di ba?
Media, telecoms, here in the Philippines, which, they are vital industries or sectors.
But who's on top of it? The Filipino, di ba? It ever happens that these companies are used for the wrong purposes, I would be the first to defy and protect Philippine interests.
If you look through, a lot of your acquisitions are Lopez companies, when you think about it. Or is that just coincidence?
I think it's just coincidence. I connected with Henny. Actually, it was when we were bidding for PCI Bank way back in probably 1988 or 89, after the EDSA revolution.
So you were competitors.
We were competitors, the Lopez group. So I think there were three of us bidding for that thing. But Alberto Rosario, if you remember him, former Secretary of State, no?
Yeah.
Foreign Affairs. Si Albert was a very good friend. I met him in '72 when he was an insurance broker in the offices of FINMA. Anyway, so his partner was si Jean De Los Reyes. He's into real estate. Anyway, his son, his girlfriend, I think is the daughter of Henny, or one of the Lopezes. So sabi sa akin ni Jean, huwag na kayo mag-compete ni Henny. I'll introduce you to Henny, you work together. Sabi ko, sure. So we met. I think we had lunch at the Peninsula, I recall, hosted by Jean. So we spoke. And, okay, sige, let's partner with you, because at the time they were bigger than we were here in this country. It eventually turned on who the president of PCI Bank should be. So I wanted a change. If he wanted to keep, edi sabi ko, di wag na lang, let's just compete, diba? Because medyo,
You stood your ground.
So, yeah, and so did he. So we didn't partner. I guess it was a business decision on both sides.
It wasn't good.
Eventually, he brought in Gokongwei, diba, into the equation, and
Yeah.
then they replaced the
Ganun
CEO.
din.
Oh, si Paing Benaventura. So sabi ko kay Jean at saka kay Albert, if he said Paeng is the new guy, we would have said, let's go. Yeah, because he's a good banker. He's an excellent banker. Then the next step was we bought home cable, remember?
Yes.
And then, but we were competing with Sky. Sky was the bigger one. Anyway, that did not work out well either, that partnership.
What happened there?
The partnership that did not work. I don't think the venture failed.
Yeah, why?
Siguro magkaibang estilo lang siguro.
Sige. O tapos,
Then, I think after Henny passed away, of course I met OML, Oscar Lopez. So, and then I met Manolo. But I was closer to Oscar. I think very nice man.
you had the same,
Oh.
I can
And
imagine.
very,
why.
very principled.
Yes.
Very principled. Yeah, I admired him for that. And actually, I offered to buy Tollways. And he said, no, not for sale. So I said, okay. Ayun, yun ang ano. Maynilad naman was already taken over by the government. And they bidded it out. We won that bidding in 2007. Tollways initially, OML said no. Then after a few years, came back and said, are you still interested? I said, yes, sir. So that's how it came about. And then the same with Meralco. He called me and said, would you be interested? Yes, sir.
They had to bow to political pressure. And
Well, I don't know
you had nothing to do with it, but
Nothing to do
you were
with
the first guy they called.
Siguro.
Pero niligawan mo na sila noon sa Meralco. Were you expressing interest na?
I thought I was on good terms with them.
I remember when the franchise was hanging in the balance, there was always the TV5 option to maybe just be a black timer. There was always that feeling about you. How was that? What was your thought process there? I mean, against the political winds at that time that you know.
We didn't want to get involved in the politics of the franchise, right? But when it was finally not renewed, then we were concerned. I mean, TV5 needed content to begin with, so we were concerned as to how we're able to tap into their content skills, their ability to create huge content. And so the first approach was that, can we work with you, block time, co-venture, etc., all sorts of forms, so without actually one owning the other or owning each other, no? And then it sort of developed into, can we invest in you and that sort of things, because they needed a free-to-air platform. No? Then they raised the idea of selling Sky Cable, and we said, sure. The bigger part actually of Sky Cable is the home broadband, the fiber to the home, delivering internet and video service. And that's very key to PLDT's home fiber business. No? So it was an attractive proposition for us.
So that's going ahead.
Well, it's with the Philippine Competition Commission, so we're waiting for their decision. You know, I don't think the president's like that. I don't think he is. I think he's a very nice man, very liberal. I think he's a broad thinker. So.
it will eventually arrive at his desk.
I suppose so.
Where does that leave ABS-CBN?
As a content provider, I still think they're the best in the country, but they cannot, they really need a strong partner platform. And TV5 is mainly a platform, right? We don't have the people, we don't have the skills to really produce content that will be comparable to the ABS-CBN content.
Ano ba yung pinaka-biggest, what you would consider acquisition that really excited you?
Actually, two. One is the agri side. I'm very excited about it. Would you believe? Carmen's Best.
Talaga?
It's our newest and smallest baby, but they will double their sales from about 100 million to about 250 or 300 million this year. So that's not too bad. I mean, it's not a big ice cream company or food company, but I'm excited
The
about
potential.
Correct. And you could see that, look, we can do it. We can produce our own food, even if it's just milk. And TV5.
No kidding.
Well, if you translate into human experience, diba? It's your problem child that you care for a lot. And TV5 is a problem child, isn't it? Kasi yung mga pogi mong anak, kaya naman niyang mabuhay na sarili, di ba? Yung maganda mong anak, oh.
So problem child pa rin siya hanggang ngayon. Kailan ba kikita ang 5? When will you get your return?
Was it Pope Clement and Michelangelo? When will you finish the Sistine Chapel saving, di ba? I think it took Michelangelo 50 years or something like that.
Are you impatient?
In this country, that's toxic, isn't it? You like a convoy in this country. A convoy.
Convoy.
You
Elaborate.
can only as fast as the slowest ship.
Well, you stuck it out here. You could have been
I
in
know.
Hong Kong. Di ba? Can you imagine
sometimes
how your worth must be maybe 100 times more than now if you were stuck it out there?
Probably. But it's also, I would say sometimes I'm tempted to just pack up and leave. Because it's into the anonymity of Hong Kong and all that. So because there's no media, etc. So, but it's not my country, no matter what. I love Hong Kong. It's my second home, but it's not my country. Sabi ko naman, dito ko mamamatay o dito palilibing. Diba? I never changed my Philippine passport despite
The difficulties.
the difficulties.
What was the biggest regret?
Quite a number. I mean, from a business perspective, in 1997, we tried to invest in San Miguel.
You did?
Well, we almost did. And that wasn't approved by President Ramos. That's the short story of that one.
Couldn't you have done it another way? I'm sure you're not easily swayed, diba? But, well, presidente na ito. Pero,
Hindi, kasi naabutan eleksyon eh. Diba? We were entering...
towards the
98.
twilight na.
Oh.
Well, you were also brave. I remember Negros Navigation, but that was a
That was a
Bad.
behest
ABS ba yun?
request. Oo. Tinawagan ako. No?
Bilin mo yan. Rescue mo yan. But you would have made it. Look at the state of inter-island transportation. It's so sad.
Politika din kami doon. Politika kami. Kasi yung mga competitors namin malakas sa palasyo. Well, I think maybe we didn't have the right management as well, di ba? So,
Are you gonna revisit that? We need that eh.
well, 11 years kami doon trying to fix it. Some businesses don't like you. I had utmost sympathy to President BBM because and I think we owe it to him to help as much as we can. I mean, the private sector, especially our group.
You're going to agriculture, which is really, where the root, I think, of the problem
It's
is.
food. I mean, the high inflation rates we've been seeing for the past few months have been driven by food, the scarcity of food, locally available food, or locally made food. When I see us importing a lot of this and a lot of that, even sugar, my God, we used to be exporters of sugar, and we gotta fix that. And I think our group should do its part. We've invested in dairy through Carmen's Best. We import more than 90% of our milk products. It's an import substitution strategy, so we should not import as much as we do now in terms of dairy products, and replace it with domestically produced milk, and natural milk rather than this powdered
Yes,
version.
processed.
So we're looking to buy into dairy farms. There's one in Mindanao. There's one in up north, northern Luzon, to expand the milk supply base and promote employment in the rural areas. That's where the farms are located. The lesson we should learn from Indonesia and Malaysia. We don't want to buy the land.
Okay.
We want to put our money into the factors of production, right? Automating it, the right hybrid, fertilizing, irrigation, that sort of thing. So you become competitive.
What took you so long to do this?
Hong Kong.
Di ba? Because it's
22
what the
years,
Philippines needs.
It is, but it has been demonized, like mining, di ba?
Farming? Agriculture?
Well, wala namang business group dito, malaki sa farming. Meron ba? Somebody should break that logjam, di ba? That kind of mental mindset. And we hope it could be that and become a bell cow investor. Alam mo naman dito,
Hindi.
di ba? Pag may successful, susunod
na.
Uunahan ka pa di ba?
Where do you see the growth coming in the next 5 years for PLDT? You've recovered from that, budget overrun.
Well, maybe two things. One is we have to get our 5G business going. The adoption of 5G usage is very slow in this country. Partly because the 4G network approximates 5G in terms of speed, coverage, and the like. That's why I've been encouraging our people to look at the successful use cases in other countries, how they did it. Like in China, there are 500 million users on 5G. There are already 500 million on their 5G network. Well, because they have the digital wallets very pervasive. They don't use cash now. Not much cash in China. Here is still a cash economy.
So you want to be ahead also in that?
Yeah, because we've invested a lot in our 5G network, and the other telcos have done so as well. And then we don't have enough 5G use cases. I think we'd probably start with the enterprise, on the enterprise side, the mining, for example, digital wallets, and the like, AI, and gaming, because 5G has the speed and lower latency than 4G. So we need to push that, and rather than reinventing the wheel, why don't you look at cases in China or Europe or wherever, where there is Korea, for example. That's one particular area. Number two is we still have to there's still some room left on the home broadband side. Right now, there are about, in total, on fiber, 6 million. If you include the fixed wireless, the hybrid platform, you could add another 2 million. So 8 million of roughly 25 million households. So we're only about a third. So there's still some ways to go in terms of the addressable market on home broadband.
And Converge is already at your heels.
Yeah. Giving us competition. Maybe the third leg is there's talk internally here in PLDT about Digico.
What's that?
It's really, that's connectivity part, which PLDT and Smart are in the main. Of course, they got products and services, but also solutions to enterprises, institutions, and solutions to individuals. Maybe you start with enterprises first. For example, in the case of our hospitals, the two pain points in any hospital in this country and elsewhere, I guess, would be your medical records. Because every time you go to the hospital, you have to fill up. They should have those medical records on the computer already, so that when you walk in, your face is there and your medical
Then
records.
it just all comes up.
Correct. Number two is the billing.
Yes.
You have to wait because they check, like hotels, they check the radiology, whatever else, and what did you do? So, and the doctor's fees. So they have to call every doctor that probably attended to you. Ayun, so you have to fix that by digitalizing your processes so that it's easier.
So this is a service you will give SMEs or even big businesses,
Correct.
big enterprises.
Correct, right. Solutions. In tollways, we want 99% of the ridership to be on RFIDs already. So it relieves the congestion because if it's a cash,
Yes.
And barrierless.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
put the barrier, it takes a few more seconds
You're
to.
right.
In Hong Kong, no barriers. But you have to put the relevant technology platform. I think when as you approach the toll booth, You need gantries with cameras that can take pictures. And then with no barriers, then if you don't have load or incomplete load, then we have to be able to know who you are.
Yeah.
In the case of Meralco, I've been pushing for smart meters. Because right now what we have are dumb meters on households and buildings. Because I think in particular case, if you humanize the experience, if the housewife has a smart meter, then she knows real time online how much she's consuming at the middle of the month. And then she can better budget her budget for power, diba? And if we put solar panels on rooftops, the household can sell his excess power to the grid. But you can only do that if you have smart meters. If you have dumb meters,
Will that be a big change in?
no, absolutely.
No, I mean, will it entail? How do you install a smart meter?
Take out the dumb meter.
Sorry.
No, but it costs money, and then we have to put solar panels eventually.
So that's still not. You don't have a dedicated unit to that, or what? How far are we from that happening?
Well, Meralco's working now on the smart meters. You have to start with that, and then the solar panels will take a few years for us to install. Because if we don't do that and effectively obsolete ourselves, the Meralco business model is at risk. Because if we don't do it, somebody else will, right? Put solar panels. Therefore, the primary source of power of households will be your solar panels, not Meralco. Will be the backup power.
Right.
Because if that's typhoon, you need power.
Well, especially now that solar panels are dropping in price.
Correct.
But you're still the biggest, I mean, by far, 70, 80%?
Dinosaurs were the biggest animals at that point. Dinosaurs, right? They became extinct. We don't want Meralco to become extinct.
Mahirap ba maging mas mahirap ba maging to aspire to be a billionaire now? You control everything. There's a Manny Pangilinan
In your face. That's a gift from OML
Oh, really?
to me. That's an Olazo from his collection. Yeah. Was such hanging here.
Oh, he was fond of you.
I got along well with him. Nice man.
How many nephews, nieces do you have?
6 nephews and nieces, 12 of us.
12 apos na!
Oh, they breed. They breed like cows, like the Carmen's best. I already apos sa tuhod.
You must have made Paco so happy. What's that thinking nga ba when you're looking at companies to acquire? Somebody scouts, ikaw talaga mismo.
Ako, mainly myself. You know, you just look for the lacunae, the weaknesses or the deficits or the holes. Like, you know, we import our food. Why do we import our food? Why can't we raise our own food?
Meralco is also into, aside from distribution, generation. So how is the mix?
It's about, I would say, in the main, around 40% from gas, 40% from coal, and 20% broad, you know, from renewables. Is the current mix of.
And you want to, of course, improve RE.
Yeah, gas and renewables would probably be more than 80% or so. Coal will probably diminish. We're not building anymore ourselves. Not building any more new coal plants. We have existing, but that's it for us. We know and we agree that gas is important up to say 2040, 2050, but it's a transition fuel. Eventually, most of the supplies should be renewables already. Which, to be fair, is the program of President Marcos, no? And DOE Secretary Gotilia. So we agree with that, and we're working towards that goal. No?
Did you recently suggest that there should be exploration for natural gas?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So why are we not doing it? Have you not entered into any agreements with, Chinese companies to do that, or?
Well, it's caught up in the geopolitics of the place. We have concession areas in the West Philippine Sea. We've been talking to the Chinese about that since 2012, but off and on. That's above my pay grade, right? So I hope we can, because Malampay is running out. Although the Ricky Razon group, I think, will be exploring and hopefully developing the near field reserves of Malampaya, but I don't think it will be sufficient.
There won't be
No.
too
So
much.
you really have to either look for concession areas within Philippine territory, but try to develop the areas that are disputed, at least by China. Because if we are to achieve energy security, you really have to have your own, as much as possible, indigenous gas. In many ways, solar helps you do that because the sun and the wind are yours, and you don't import the fuel, and nuclear.
Are you looking at that?
Yes, it's 5
How
to 10
far-
years away. It's not tomorrow.
You're
Well,
looking at
we've been
nuclear.
talking to nuclear companies in Australia, Japan, and the U.S. No? I think it's good that if we could talk to European companies like the French companies who are quite advanced also on nuclear. So we're exploring.
So puro exploratory pa lang.
No, but
Nothing.
I think we try to arrange for a pilot plant from the U.S. to come here, 5 megawatts, located in some safe place. Technology can solve it. It's just a question of you paying for it. Yeah, you have to be willing to pay for
Mahal.
it. And part of it is educating the
That's
Filipinos.
supposed to be cheaper, di ba? Even if you add all these, eventually it will be cheaper.
It's not so bad. Remember this, the energy market in this country is fully taxed, no subsidies.
Will it bring down the cost of power eventually?
Yes, if you have scale.
I understand this is where you spend 60 to 70% of your time talaga dito sa PLDT, not in Meralco, not in the other.
Although I'm spending more time in Meralco because it's doing very well actually. You know, when I first went to Hong Kong in 1978, I thought I'd stay there. Tinaningan ko yun eh. 5 years lang ako dito. Kasi nalulungkot ako. Siyempre nung una ganun. 5 became 10, 15, 22 years. Until we found PLDT.
It was really PLDT that made you stay. Kasi dati, paano-ano ka lang eh, no? You didn't really stay here.
Yeah, because we made a big investment, and I thought I should steward that investment of First Pacific and PLDT by being here and making sure that the thing worked. Yun. So I was committed.
Mahirap ba maging mas mahirap ba maging to aspire to be a billionaire now?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. There are still opportunities, many opportunities, as changes occur. You just have to be sensitive to those changes and take advantage of those changes. Why not? If you have that mindset, you'll never progress. This country will never progress. And that's what I despair about our youth. They seem to be, like my apos, they seem to be entitled. When I was your age, I keep telling them, you know, I worked very hard. I was very disciplined, blah, blah, blah. But they're very casual about these things.
Do you think the Philippines pamper their youth?
In a way. Well, that's one of the reasons I left. But after a while, I felt that the extended family system offers you the cocoon of comfort. Because you know that if you become jobless or sick or whatever, your mom will always be there, right, to care for you. So that's a good part of it, like technology. But also the bad part of it, it stifles initiative. Personal accountability, personal responsibility, and your desire to fulfill yourself as a person by yourself. And I felt that way, and that's one of the major reasons I went to Hong Kong. So take a chance and see what I can do. If I fail, that's it, di ba? Ganun lang yun eh. They need that courage, which I don't find, that entrepreneurial spirit, their ability to handle failures. Because I keep telling them, my apos, no matter if you live in a cocoon, you will still fail. You will encounter failure in your life.
Failure is inevitable.
Just
Diba?
learn from them and then move on. Diba?
What drives you? It's not the money, for sure.
It helps.
You're eyeing this opportunity and you go into battle, I suppose, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yes, I mean, I think most business people have that. The thrill of the chase.
Yeah.
When you're doing a deal, your adrenaline just pumps up. And sometimes you're in competition with other business groups, so you have to be on top of your game if you want to win that particular prize. And then the satisfaction of winning and the despair of losing, right? There's always that. But you learn lessons from both, no? To be magnanimous in your success and not get to your head.
Ilan na ba? I mean, do you...
Well, I was promiscuous when I was young in Hong Kong. We buy anything on site, but it's the same lesson for failures. Right?
Don't look back also. Don't dwell. Don't...
Not
like,
too much, but you should feel it, because if you don't, then it's not worth the price, isn't it? So forget about it. It's not worth it. But you should feel it and learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said you get closer to God through your failures, not through your awards and ceremonies, through your failures.
Manny Pangilinan's successful career has been defined by his strong desire to give back to the country and uplift the life of every Filipino through businesses that contribute to nation building and programs that help the youth and the Filipino athlete. Sa kabila ng kanyang mga tagumpay abroad, hindi nalilimutan ni MVP na lumingon sa kanyang pinanggalingan. Sana'y nagustuhan ninyo ang aming episode ngayong gabi, and just like MVP, spells success as service to our country and to our fellow Filipinos. Ako po si Ces Orenia Drilon. Maraming salamat sa inyong panonood sa Usapang Bilyonaryo.